Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to the Mixer and quite possibly the final player profile style of vlog that I'm going to be doing here for a while, because today I'm going to be talking about a basketball player who unfortunately is no longer with us. You know, normally when I do a sports related video I wear a jersey, you know, corresponding to the sport that I'm talking about, but today I'm just going to wear an all black shirt, you know, in tribute to this guy. I'm pretty sure all of you know Kobe being Bryant. Okay, and it's with a very heavy heart that I'm going to record this video, because there's going to be a lot of emotions riding through this, you know, that I hope you guys can bear with me here as I explain. But before I actually get into the profile itself, let me talk a little bit about my relationship with Kobe Bryant. Now, I was never that big of a basketball fan. You know, of course, over the years, I did know who the big player was, Michael Jordan, Kobe himself, and then later LeBron James, you know, mostly by names, you know, who they were. Today, I'm a much bigger fan of basketball than I ever could have hoped to have been when I was younger, even though I did grow up in the United States and it was the most popular sport around the area and also in my school. But I just never really took an interest in it, you know, I don't really know why. And after Kobe died last year, you know, in January of 2020, I started to take up a stronger interest in the sport, you know, because of him. I started playing NBA Live, you know, and then later 2K. I started supporting the Lakers, you know, in honor of him, you know. So when I was doing NBA 2K, you know, when I was planning out my spreadsheet and how many videos I was gonna do, the gameplays, you know, eventually at one point I was gonna do a gameplay of him. That was always there from the start, the idea of it. And right after I finished, I wanted to talk a little bit about him, you know, and this video is going to be coming out right after. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be directly afterwards, the gameplay with him, you know, with the Lakers. So they're kind of gonna go hand in hand if you want to watch one and later the other, or vice versa. But the thing with Kobe is that he was an unprecedented player, you know, he was ahead of his time, and in my opinion, one of the greatest players of all time, you know. And it's actually crazy because Kobe, like, he became much better, he became much bigger and larger than life after his passing, you know. That's usually how it works with public figures and whatnot. And he was just an amazing player, you know, an all-around phenomenal shooting guard, you know. So I'm gonna want to talk about him a little bit, you know, his career statistics and what he's done, you know, in the NBA. So the same format that I follow with all the other ones. So I just want to get into that right now. So he is considered to be one of the greatest players of all time, and also in my opinion as well. He won a total of 5 NBA championships, okay, throughout his career. He played his entire career with the Lakers, by the way, a 20-year career, 2 decades with the same team, you know. And he was an 18-time All-Star. Okay, a 15-time member of the All-NBA team, and he was also a 12-time member of the All-Defensive team. Okay, and he was voted the NBA MVP back in 2008, and he's also a 2-time NBA Finals MVP. Okay, and he led the NBA in scoring 2 times, and he currently ranks the 4th all-time in league all-time regular season and post-season scoring. And he was also posthumously voted into the Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in 2020, the year he died. It's such a shame that he had to die for him to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You know, I don't know why the criteria works that way, but yeah, man. So oh boy, it's really sad. It's really hard to talk about this, but he was picked in 1996. He was drafted to the NBA, the 1st round pick and the 13th overall for the Lakers, and he played from 96 to 2016, so exactly 20 years. And he used both the number 8 and 24 jerseys, you know, both of which are immortalized, and I do believe they are retired by the Lakers, you know. Yep, right here. The numbers 8 and 24 retired by the Los Angeles Lakers, so nobody can even come close to touching them. You can't even dream of touching those numbers, dude. They belong to him, and they always will. So he won quite a few different accolades as well, you know, NBA scoring championship, you know, all that kind of stuff. And Kobe, man, what are you gonna do? He also won the Olympic Games. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He won in 2008 in Beijing and in 2012 in London, you know, kind of like the new era of the Dream Team. And also the FIBA Americans Championship, kind of like the Basketball World Cup in 2007 in Vegas, you know. And throughout his career, he put up a very impressive 33,643 points, you know, that averages about to 25 points per game. 7,047 rebounds, which comes down to about 5.2 rebounds per game, and 6,306 assists, you know, which comes down to about 4.7 assists per game. Yeah, man, the guy was crazy good.
Bryant to the basket, inside! Oh, what a finish from Bryant! for jumper here. You got to communicate and tell Roger Bell which way to send them. They don't communicate. They allow them to go to the hoop to a strong hand. Mama, there goes that man all the way to the rim and finish.
So, getting into the more technical side, Kobe played his entire career mostly as a shooting guard, and within basketball, a shooting guard's main objective is to steal the ball on defense and try to score points for their team, you know? So it's kind of like, it's a very aggressive style of play, you know? And the name itself, shooting guard, already lets you know that they are supposed to shoot a lot for the basket. But Kobe was actually really good at shooting. There was actually one game, it was a landmark in his career, in my opinion, you know, because he scored, I think, 12 three-pointers in a row. He was just nailing three-pointers all night, man, you know, one after the other. And I actually nailed quite a bunch of them myself in my NBA 2K21 play. I actually ended up scoring 40 points with him, you know. And Kobe has been no stranger to putting up a lot of points, you know, in some games in his career. And a fun fact about him, he is actually the player who came the closest to Will Chamberlain's 100 points in a single game. He actually scored 81 in 2006 against the Toronto Raptors, if I'm not mistaken, you know. And that, to this day, is his best game. You know, he has never come close to a game like that. And come on, you score 81 points in a blowout victory for your team. It's definitely going to leave an impression on your career resume, you know. And in his very last game in 2016, you know, with a lot of celebrities in attendance, he scored 60, which was also really impressive for a man past his prime, you know. Unfortunately, a few injuries here and there started to tarnish his career a little bit, you know, his playing style. But in general, he still put up a lot of really good numbers towards the end of his career there. And there was a time during the Lakers where Shaquille O'Neal came to play. You know, he came to Los Angeles, and they got very infamous for feuding a lot. Even though they did win a few rings together, they just couldn't seem to get along on the court, man. You know, sometime later they did reconcile, you know. Thankfully, it happened before Kobe died, but they were really notorious for just not getting along, you know. And actually, even though that they had this feud, you know, they won 3 back-to-back championships in 2000, 2001, and 2002, you know. So imagine if they had gotten along. Imagine how much more they could have won, you know. But they were still a pretty good duo. They were a very dominant duo, even though I guess one was a little bit more full of himself than the other. They wanted to score more points than the other, you know. They weren't exactly team players with each other, so to speak, you know, but they were still pretty okay, you know. They were still pretty okay. And there were a few other things that happened, like he was charged with sexual assault in 2003, but it was actually settled out of court. You know, I'm not even going to get into that because I don't want that to be about what it's going to happen. But anyway, so after the 2004 NBA Finals, Shaq actually left. I do believe he went to the Miami Heat, and Kobe became the cornerstone of the Lakers. You know, he became the primary player of that team, and he led them to a bunch of other championships. You know, a lot of playoffs appearances, and he just became pretty much the best player in the NBA at that point for a few years there, in like the early to mid 2000s or so. Towards climbing into the late 2000s, Kobe was, in my opinion, the most dominant player in the NBA, and nobody even came close to him.
The single coverage by Landry, Ariza drop down, Kobe! Oh! Up high, down hard, Kobe Bryant! Hold on to your hats, folks, here he comes.
Well, I guess that ankle is okay. Oh, no, he didn't. Kobe Bean.
So the thing about Kobe is that he is the highest leading scorer. That sounded a little wrong. The all-time leading scorer, you know, the highest scorer in Los Angeles Lakers history throughout their entire history, you know, in the game. And he's actually, he is the only guard in NBA history to play for 20 years, you know, 20 seasons. And some other tidbits of facts about him, you know. And he actually led the NBA in scoring in the 2005 and 06 seasons, and also 06 and 07 season. And he led the Lakers to consecutive championships. Remember how he and Shaq won 3 in a row, you know, together? Well, Kobe by himself led the Lakers to 2 in 2010 and 2009 and 2010. He led the Lakers to 2 NBA championships. He got 2 more rings for himself there, you know. And his 18 All-Star designations are actually the second most of all time, you know, although it is the record for most consecutive appearances as a starter, you know. And His 4 NBA all-time MVP awards are tied with Bob Pettit for the most in NBA history, so it's not exactly an individual record, but it is still, he does deserve a lot of merit for that. And unfortunately, he was still, I said that he was kind of like one of the best players around into the mid-late 2000s, but up until 2012, 2013 more or less, he was still very dominant, but he suffered a torn Achilles tendon when he was 34, and for a basketball player, hurting any part of your body near your foot is not going to be good, you know? So there was also a season-ending knee and shoulder injuries, you know, in a few seasons after that, 2 seasons after that, and then after some physical decline, he retired. But he also gave himself the nickname Black Mamba. You know, he himself started calling himself that in a way to kind of like it was a way for him to just refer to himself as that. Why exactly he named himself after one of the world's most venomous snakes, I don't know. I mean, black does make sense. He's African American. He's a black person. Mamba, I don't really know. Maybe it's because he was just so dangerous with shooting that he was actually really poisonous, so to speak, you know. His shots were very venomous. They always found the basket, you know, 3-pointers, but maybe that's it. And even though he called himself that, it was adopted by the general public around him. His fans started calling him that, you know. In my gameplay with Kobe and the Lakers in my playlist, I titled the video Mamba Forever, so it really stuck, you know. And in 2018, he became the only athlete, I do believe the first and only to this day, to win an Academy Award. You know, I was going to say Grammy. Grammy is music. An Oscar, right, for Best Animated Short Film for his film Dear Basketball in 2017, which I unfortunately have not seen yet, you know. I'm going to get on that as soon as I can, you know. It was like his little tribute to the sport that he played for so many years, you know. And as you guys know, he died in 2014. He died in 2020 last year, and it was pretty crazy because there's a lot of controversy surrounding his death. You know, I'm gonna get to that in a bit. Just watch this other clip of him here for now.
Bryant fires away. It's good! 3-pointer for Kobe Bryant. Good screen set by Gasol. That's absolutely a 3.
Okay, so most of what I'm going to say now, I'm going to have to read straight from the source here, the article that I have here on my tablet, because I can't memorize this, it's too much information. But he died in a helicopter crash along with his 13-year-old daughter, who was one of the passengers. It was actually even sadder than that was his own daughter, man. But anyway, so at 9:45 a.m., there were a few different speculations of what may have happened. There was a lot of light rain and fog that morning, and also the helicopter, the pilot maybe couldn't see too much. Maybe he or she overestimated their abilities and just kept flying anyway to get Kobe from point A to point B. They were traveling from Ventura County for a basketball game at the Mamba Sports Academy in Thousand Oaks. You know, wasn't meant to be a very long trip, and so at 9:45 a.m. approximately, the helicopter crashed into the side of a mountain in Calabasas, about 30 miles northwest of downtown LA, and began burning, you know. And it is widely said and accepted that everybody died on impact, you know. It was Kobe, his daughter, and 7 other occupants, including 6 family friends and the pilot, you know, so a total of 9 people on board. Everybody died on impact. And apparently there was a lot of heavy fog, so nobody could see where they were going, you know. And people who were down, like witnesses reported hearing the helicopter actually struggling, you know, before it crashed. So probably like the final minutes, you know, of everybody on board. I don't even know what's gonna happen. But pretty much the official cause of death was ruled as a blunt force trauma. So basically the impact killed everybody immediately, and you know, it was pretty, the pilot was actually very criticized, you know, because he ignored his training, violated federal regulations during the 40-minute flight. But anyway, I'm talking about the better side of it now, the tributes and the services. You know, a lot of things happened, and a lot of people paid tribute to Bryant, you know, myself included on Twitter. And the NBA postponed the Lakers games against the Clippers, you know, 2 days afterwards. You know, first time that happened since 2013, there was a bombing. And here we go, some of the things that I wanted to tell you guys, besides the celebrities here. Okay, so okay, so here we go. Beginning with the San Antonio Spurs and the Toronto Raptors in their first game on the day of the crash, the teams were starting to pay tribute to Bryant in their own ways. You know, they were doing intentional on-court violations, you know, referring to his uniform numbers on their first possession. So either a 24-second shot clock or an 8-second backcourt violation, for example. You know, everything was in a factor of 8s and 24s. I even think some players scored a certain number of points, like they scored 8 or 24 and they just stopped completely. You know, I think that also happened. And then on February 15th, you know, the All-Star Game MVP award was renamed to the NBA All-Star Game Kobe Bryant MVP award, you know, in his honor. And you know, a few other things happened as well. And a lot of celebrities recorded songs for him. They sang in the Academy Awards, you know, and other events as well, and in other sports as well. In American football, you know, the 2020 Pro Bowl was happening in Orlando. You know, the kind of like it's American football. And before kickoff, the players who knew that Kobe had died, they conducted a prayer led by Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson, while various on-field and PA tributes were made during the game. You know, and also, after the Lakers beat the Miami Heat in the 2020 NBA Finals to clinch their championship, you know, Snoop Dogg paid homage to Kobe, you know, and the Lakers with a full forearm tattoo. So, yeah, I wish I could do the same. Maybe in the future I will, but it's gonna be quite a tattoo, huh? But anyway, so what can we take from this? It was sad, obviously, you know, and the deaths of such a legend in the sports world at age 41. Well, let me put my tablet down here so it doesn't fall off of my thigh. It was obviously very sad, you know, and there are no words to express how sad I feel. And imagine people who actually followed Kobe for many years, you know. I mean, I started watching basketball because of him, you know, so many years after, about the same time around as he died, you know. But I can imagine how much more painful it was. How much more painful it was for people who actually were fans, you know, for such a much longer time, especially my cousin who got me into it, you know. And the most tragic thing is his daughter, who was an up-and-coming WNBA star, man, who definitely would have gone far in the sport as well had she was she still alive. So my heart goes out to their family members and their closest friends. And even though he had already been retired at that point, the game will definitely won't ever be the same now, man.
Now they got issues with the clock.
Kobe drives. Kobe all the way. Dunks it home. Kobe Bryant, sensational.
Has the crowd buzzing as he takes it the distance and hammers one. And he looks at the official and says, "Can I get an and one, please? Bad elbow or not?"
But anyway, I think that's it, guys. I think that's all I can say. You know, I wanted to get this video out there in tribute to Kobe, you know, some of his career accomplishments and talking about him as a player, you know. The thing about Kobe is that he was a very aggressive player in different senses, you know. Throughout many years of his career, he was considered to be kind of a douche, you know. He was very narcissistic and kind of had his head up his own behind, you know, for a couple of the games there that he played, you know. People complained about him that he wouldn't pass the ball to anyone. He wanted to score points on his own, you know. So it took him a while to come out of that hard shell and become a team player, you know, from what people said. And after he embraced the team mentality, he became an even better player than ever before, you know. It's not like Jordan, who you don't really care if he's solo or a team player, you know. He's gonna play really well anyway. But Kobe, after he embraced this and started to become more for the team, he started to put up even more points than before, you know. And he was really good on defense and offense, you know, alternating between like the shooting guard position there throughout his career, you know. But basically, I don't know if he ever played point guard, but he was basically, you know, all of the general guard positions there that we had in the sport, you know. And if you watch his videos on YouTube about with him scoring buckets, you know, from downtown, no long range three, and inside the paint, you know, you see that he was really good and he had some really crazy dunks. He could jump high. There was actually this symbolic thing that people would refer to him as the successor, the heir to Michael Jordan's throne, because Michael Jordan was number 23, Kobe was number 24. You know, so it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like Jordan was the best and Kobe is the second best, you know. I consider him to be one of the best players ever. I talked about him, you know, in my video talking about the top 10 best basketball players ever. Obviously, Kobe made the list. I don't even care that I spoiled it, you know. But go and watch that video anyway if you enjoy basketball, because it's definitely something really cool, you know. And Kobe was insane, man. Kobe was insane, you know, got some really good blocks too. He was good at rebounding, pretty much anything that you can imagine this guy was really good at. He was the complete package and finished off his career with just a few more points than MJ, right? That's all I wanted to say. You know, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, you know, and if you did, if you liked it, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel, because I release videos every single day, not just basketball, sports related, but, you know, usually around the time that I do sports related gameplays, I talk about athletes, you know, but this will probably be the last one for a while, especially because the Olympics are over now. But and hit the notification bell on my channel after you subscribe so you can know when my uploads happen, because I do them completely at random, you know, multiple videos a day when I can, so it's all good. So yeah, as the great Kobe once said, Mamba out, and I'm saying Chazzy out, okay? This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen.